Hi there, it's Nicole McGuirk here today for Mama Elephant. Thanks for joining me. Today I am showcasing a designer series project focusing on the new Playful Pups stamp set and Creative Cuts dies, as well as the pop-up trio dies, which work for making an interactive card on the inside. So fun and very easy to use. To start, I'm going to stamp the images that I'm going to be coloring with Copic markers for my card here today. I am using 4 of the puppy images from the Playful Pups stamp set. I'm stamping them with some My Favorite Things Black Licorice Hybrid ink. This is a great, nice, bold black ink that works with Copic markers, which I absolutely love. It gives a really nice, crisp black stamped image. Really nice outline. I am going to go ahead and start coloring in these puppies here. All of the colors that I'm using are going to be shown up there in the upper left corner of the screen. For this particular puppy, I'm using E31, YR23, which ended up being a little too yellowy, so I didn't use it again. I only listed it because I am using it a little bit here. Instead, I switched to the YR24 and then YR27 to darken up some of those areas. Now you can see there's quite a bit of difference between the YR colors and then the E31. So at first it doesn't blend really well. The more saturated though that it gets, I find that it blends together really nicely. I'm going to go back now that I have blended once with E31 and pull in some more of that YR24, add in some YR27, and then when I go to blend with the E31, it is going to definitely blend a lot better. The more saturated the paper is, I find the easier it is to blend those colors. I'm going to pull that YR24 out just a little bit more. I thought the lighter areas were just a little too big. I'm going to go in those areas now where it's definitely darker, or where I want it to be darker rather, and add some YR27. And then I'm going to add some little dots for texture. Now the colors I used for this puppy, I am going to use for that top puppy that he's kind of bending down there, wagging his little tail, just so that I'm not going to show the coloring of that particular puppy in this video, since I've already shown how the colors I used to color him in. For the little bandana, I went with the pinks. I'm using RV55 and RV19. For a little pink bandana there, and E49 for the nose. While I have out my red violet colors, I'm going to color in a couple of those little hats using those same 2 marker colors. These party hats are from the Ella and Friends stamp set, and they fit perfectly on the top of the little puppy's heads. I love that you can use these to really make this card a birthday card. For the collar on this puppy at the top, I'm going to use R24 and R46. It's very small. Then I'm going to go ahead and color in one of the birthday hats with that same marker, or those same 2 markers rather, to make a red birthday hat. Go ahead and move on to the puppy here in the top right corner. I'm going to start with Warm Gray 5. I'm going to color him a little bit darker, kind of give that illusion of dark gray, almost black. I'm going to start with a mid-tone warm gray color and then gradually build up that color to darken. Going in with some Warm Gray 6 now. Darken up a few of those areas. Especially when trying to achieve a more black look, I like to gradually build up so that I don't start too dark and then end up with an image that's too dark and I can't fix it. So I tend to like to err on the side of caution and start much lighter. I'm also using Warm Gray 7 here. Gonna color in a little R20 for the ears and then go over those with a Warm Gray marker. I started with Warm Gray 1 and covered in the muzzle on the dog also with Warm Gray 1. I'm using a little Warm Gray 8 now to really add some darker areas, and then I'll blend those out with my other Warm Gray markers. Color over that pink. I like to lighten up the pink, and that ended up being a little too much, so I did go over it again with R20 a little bit later to give it a little bit more of that pink hue. I used a little Warm Gray 5 to add some little dots to the muzzle, and then I'm going to go in with Warm Gray 8 and Warm Gray 7 and add some little dots and texture to the dog. If any of those get a little too dark, I can go in with another marker color, a lighter warm gray, and blend those out. For the collar, I'm using R24 and R46, using those for the heart as well. And then I'm using R81, 83, and 85 for the envelope in his mouth. I think this image would be absolutely adorable for Valentine's Day as well, or just a love-themed card, period. I think that would be really cute. Once I colored in the envelope pink and the heart red, I was like, oh, I love this for Valentine's Day. Now, while I have my pink markers out, I went ahead and colored in the top of this birthday hat. And then I'm going to move on to my oranges, and I'm using YR01, 04, and 09 for this birthday hat. Deepen it up a little bit. All the colors that I'm using, the bright colors, the reds, the pinks, the oranges, are inspired by the pattern paper that I'm going to be using, and I'll show that in a little bit when I get it die cut. I wanted to kind of match the birthday hats to my paper a little bit to pull that color from the background. The color for this last puppy that I haven't colored is also in the orange color family. And I skipped back to my RV 55 and 19 for the tops of the orange hat. Now I'm going to go with my much lighter warm gray markers. I'm using W00, 1, 2, 3, and 5 for this puppy. I purposely wanted to keep him much lighter, colored in his nose with W8. I'm going to go in with warm gray 1, kind of blend him all out. I did start with the little bit darker, or they're very similar in color. I'm going to darken up this hair around his nose a little bit. I'm going to go in with warm gray 5 now and start darkening up this puppy. Again, I like to start light and then gradually build up with my dark. I did, especially for this one, I did not want him to get too terribly dark, so I erred on the side of caution when building up the color. Here's a little warm gray 3. You can go over it as many times as you need to, and with this one I definitely did, because as I blended out with my warm gray 1, I felt like I lost a little too much of that difference in shading. So I did kind of go back and pull in more of that warm gray 5. I'm going to add some little dots now. It's going to be much more subtle because the color is so light here. But I really like how that looks, and I like the hair around his little nose. Color in the little tag on his collar with my pink markers. I'm going to go ahead and place the dies that coordinate here, the Playful Pups, around the colored images. I'm holding those down with some Post-it tape since I'm die cutting so many at once. Set that aside, and I am taking some Doodlebug striped paper from the Love Bug 6x6 paper pad and die cutting that with the stitched rectangle from the Basic Die Creative Cuts collection from Mama Elephant. And then I'm going to take the scallop rectangle from that same die collection and die cut that from vellum. This is one of my favorite tips if you have a bold, bright pattern. I love the pattern, I love the colors, but I didn't want it to take away from the design, so I'm going to layer that vellum over the top. I'm die cutting some of the red pattern paper then using the banner die from that same die collection as well. And you can see the vellum overlaying the pattern paper in the upper left corner of the screen there. It really helps mute it and makes it not overpower the stamped and die cut elements on the card. I'm going to use a powder tool on my banner, and then I'm taking one of the greetings from the Playful Pups stamp set, and I'll stamp that with Versamark ink right on the banner, add some white embossing powder, and then I'll heat set that. It's really going to pop. I love using white embossing powder on colored either pattern paper here or cardstock to really make the greeting pop on the card. I can go ahead and start putting it all together now. I'll start by attaching my puppies to the vellum rectangle. Want to kind of line those up and have them slightly overlap each other, and then I can attach the party hats to each of them. Trying to find the best way to add the party hats to all of these puppies. I'm using some foam adhesive on the back of the banner and then regular adhesive on those two little end tabs. Press it down in the middle with the foam adhesive and then position the two ends. I'm using a black gel pen for the eyes to really make them pop. That's my favorite tip for a great finishing touch for little critters. I'm using the Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen for all the party hats, and then the little collar and the heart on the envelope. And then I'm taking glossy accents to the noses on each of the critters. Now, I left to go eat lunch and let that set and dry before I came back to finish the inside of the card. So you want to probably let that dry for 15 or 20 minutes. That might want to be the last thing you do. Where I have a puppy on the inside of the card, I went ahead and did it at this point so I could let it set and dry. I am taking the Pop-Up Trio dies now. I just chose one of them that is going to be hidden back behind the stamped element, so I chose the one that wouldn't stick out above that. I'm going to position it there with a little post-it tape, run it through my die cutting machine. Then you want to push it forward there so that you have a pop-up element when the card opens. Now this panel, this red cardstock panel, is about 1/4 of an inch smaller on all sides than the actual A2 sized card. I'm attaching the party hat there to my puppy, making sure that all works. Now I really thought he needed an additional element, so I am going to add something here in a minute. But I took the greeting Yappy Birthday from the Playful Pups stamp set and stamped that right there on my inside panel using Versamark ink. I'm going to sprinkle white embossing powder on that, tap off all that excess, and then I'll heat set that for the inside. I'm going to take another one of those Pop-Up Trio dies. I'm using a little post-it tape to help me know where the center of that die is, and then I'm going to line that up again with the score line on the inside panel of my card, run that through my Big Shot. You could also mark that center line where it scores with Sharpie if you want to. I just hadn't done it yet, and I'm just using my post-it tape. That worked good enough for this. Again, I'm going to push that little pop-up panel forward to make that little stair step. Now, originally I used a little tape here to hold my puppy in place, but it's not really very strong. It was sticking, but I was afraid it would come loose, so I'm going to switch that out with liquid adhesive here in a minute. So that's really cute. I love how when you open it up, the little puppy will pop up. I'm taking the paw print from the stamp set now and stamping it with some Simon Says Stamp Lipstick Red ink. I like that little finishing touch for a puppy card, those little paw prints. I think they're so cute. And I've stamped the little dog dish from the stamp set now, and I'm going to color that in with coordinating colors. I've listed all the colors I'm using. I'm using R81, 83, and 85 for the food dish, warm gray 00 for the dog bone, and then I'm using the dot coloring technique for the dog food to give it texture, using E30, E55, and E57. And then I'll die cut that with the coordinating die. I thought with the puppy that I used for the inside of the card, it looks like he's kind of wagging his tail towards something. I thought the little food dish would be something cute to have him facing, if that makes sense. Plus it adds another pop-up image to the inside of the card, which I love. So there is the little liquid adhesive I used for that. I'm going to go ahead and really put some nice strong adhesive. I'm using the Glue Glider Pro. On the back side of this red panel, you want to make sure you keep the adhesive off of those pop-up tabs. Going to open up my white card base now, line up the score lines. Then I'm just going to close it and press that in place, and there's the inside panel. So when you close it and you open it up, the little puppy and food dish pop up. I'm hiding the adhesive now on the back of the vellum. Going to center that over my pattern paper. Just kind of tape that down in place. Add some adhesive now on the back of that and place it right on the front of my card to finish that off. So here's another look at the front of the card, and then you open it up for the pop-up. I hope you've enjoyed this video showcasing the new Playful Pups stamp set and Creative Cuts dies, as well as the Pop-Up Trio dies from Mama Elephant. The supplies I've used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Please subscribe for weekly card making and stamping videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.